There are athletes who win, and there are those who transcend winning. Legends are born not from ease, but from suffering, defiance, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. That is why, when Formula One driver Carlos Sainz called Marc Marquez the Ayrton Senna of MotoGP, the motorsport world, well, paused. It wasn't just a compliment, it was a declaration that Marquez, much like Senna, is a force beyond his own era. Marquez's story is the kind that, honestly, belongs in the realm of myth. When he first burst into MotoGP in 2013 with Repsol Honda, he shattered convention, winning the World Championship in his rookie season, something unseen for decades.
Welcome to GP Time. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates.
Then came the storm. In 2020, at Jerez, the unthinkable happened. A violent crash left him with a shattered right arm, an injury so severe that it twisted the humerus bone over 30 degrees out of alignment. 4 surgeries, infections, sleepless nights, and, years of uncertainty followed. There were whispers that the king of MotoGP would never ride again. Yet, as Senna once said, being second is to be the first of the ones who lose. Marquez refused to lose. When Honda's machine could no longer match his fire, he made the hardest decision of his life, leaving the team that had made him a legend. In 2024, he joined Gresini Ducati, a private team with heart, but not the might of a factory giant. What many saw as desperation, Marquez turned into rebirth. He won 3 Grand Prix races that year, reawakening a fire the sport hadn't seen since his prime. Then came 2025, his resurrection year. With Ducati's factory team, Marquez reigned once more, claiming 11 victories and securing his 7th Premier Class World title, 6 years after his last. It was a comeback that felt biblical, a story of pain, faith, and undying will. And that is why Carlos Sainz, a fellow Spaniard and F1 race winner, spoke the words that now echo through both paddocks. I congratulated him because he had an incredible year. What he's done coming back from that, it's unbelievable. Marc Marquez is the Ayrton Senna of MotoGP. We just don't fully realize it yet. When he retires and time has passed, people will remember him as the closest thing to Senna that motorcycle racing has ever seen. Sainz's comparison is not one of nationality or statistics, but of soul. Senna was more than a racer. He was a symbol of beauty and danger, of faith and fury, of passion that burned brighter than logic. Marquez carries that same fire. His eyes, like Senna's, tell the story of a man who dances with fear rather than avoids it. Senna won 3 Formula One World Championships in 1988, 1990, and 1991. And he died doing what he loved most, leading, pushing beyond the edge at Imola in 1994. For many, he remains the soul of Formula One. To be compared to him is to be elevated beyond victory into immortality. Marquez, with his 7 MotoGP titles, now stands shoulder to shoulder with Valentino Rossi, and within reach of Giacomo Agostini's all-time record. But numbers alone do not define him. What defines him is that unmistakable glint, that audacity to attack corners others fear, to save the unsavable, and to smile through pain that would have broken anyone else. He is the matador of MotoGP, fearless, theatrical, born for the spectacle of risk, and like Senna, he has turned competition into art. So perhaps Sainz is right. Maybe we are living through greatness and do not yet realize it. Maybe years from now, when the cheers fade and the engines fall silent, we'll look back and whisper, that was him. That was our Senna. Because legends are not defined by how they start, or even how they win. They are defined by how they rise again, against the odds, against pain, against time itself. Marc Marquez, the soul of a racer, the Senna of 2 wheels. The Indonesian Grand Prix in Mandalika was supposed to be a celebration, a sun-drenched festival of speed, passion, and the roaring might of Ducati's Red Army. Instead, it became a weekend of chaos, pain, and dark humor, testing the mettle of even the most resilient figures in MotoGP. What unfolded was a drama that blended tragedy and irony in equal measure, a tale that fans won't soon forget. From the very first practice session, the air in the Ducati garage was thick with tension. The heat shimmered off the tarmac, the smell of burnt rubber lingered in the air, and the team's focus was razor-sharp. But fate had a cruel sense of timing. Marc Marquez, the seven-time world champion who had been on a heroic comeback trail, suffered a devastating crash during the opening laps, a violent fall that wrenched his right shoulder, the same one that had been rebuilt through 4 surgeries in past years. When he emerged from the gravel, grimacing yet defiant, the world collectively held its breath. The once invincible gladiator was human again, battered, bruised, but still unwilling to yield. He was rushed to the medical center, and when he reappeared in the paddock hours later, arm cradled in a sling, a hush fell over the Ducati garage. At the same time, Francesco Pecco Bagnaia, still glowing from his masterclass victory in Japan just a week earlier, found himself engulfed in a nightmare. The grip was unpredictable, the tires uncooperative, and the pressure unbearable. What should have been another podium finish turned into a race of survival. By the time the checkered flag waved, Pecco's face told the story. Frustration, fatigue, and disbelief all rolled into one. But amid the frustration and pain, the latest episode of Ducati's behind-the-scenes series, Inside Ducati Lenovo Team, captured something deeper. The heart and soul of a team that refuses to break, no matter how many times the world knocks it down. The cameras rolled as mechanics worked in silence, engineers pored over data, and physiotherapists tended to Marquez's injured shoulder. Between the solemn faces and the hum of machinery, the scene was almost cinematic, a portrait of modern gladiators wrestling not only with their rivals but with their own limits. Then, as if the universe needed a punchline, Gigi Dall'Igna, Ducati's brilliant and notoriously stoic general manager, appeared, his own face marked with cuts and bruises from an earlier mishap. When a journalist asked him about the weekend's outcome, Dall'Igna chuckled dryly and said, "We didn't achieve our goal." It was the understatement of the season, a line that perfectly captured the weekend's bizarre mixture of disaster and humor. And as the paddock now moves toward the final races of the season, one thing is certain: the red machines from Bologna are far from finished. Marquez will heal, Dall'Igna will regroup, Bagnaia will return hungrier than ever. Because in MotoGP, as in life, the measure of greatness is not how often you fall, but how fiercely you rise again. Ducati's Mandalika madness was not a failure. It was a preview, a storm before the next sunrise.